What's going on, folks? This is Coach Marcus for Pro Fan Talk. Some interesting news, but this one, I'm looking in the basketball world. Whenever you have an event or a story that gets so big, it captures the attention of the people who aren't paying attention. Now, I have not really paid attention to the playoffs since the Sixers lost. Kind of on the periphery. I catch highlights. I've caught the ends of a couple of games. But since the Sixers have lost, I have not watched an entire playoff game. I've been watching, like I said, the Celtics and the Heat from a distance. I'm not paying attention to the NBA playoffs. There's a lot of other people, really, they're sports fans, but they're not invested in it. And then, of course, the end of the game the other day with the whole Jimmy Butler, enough time on the clock, immediately you see all of this stuff in social media about fixing the games and conspiracy theories and things of that nature, which ultimately leads to, are the powers that be trying to force a game 7, because if they force a game 7, they make more money. Vegas makes more money with more betting. Domino effect of just like bad stuff. And of course, all of that always leads back to Tim Donaghy and the situation that happened, what was that, 2007, when he got busted for gambling, and all of the things that he has said that the NBA has done and allowed, and you know how the refs will work the games for certain players and things like that. And we all know that to be true. The NBA can try to deny it about the rules. Everybody knows there were Jordan rules. Everybody knows, just from the, you don't even have to get too deep, but if you remember, I don't know what year it was, I believe it was Rasheed Wallace got thrown out of a game and he never said a word. The ref didn't like the way Rasheed looked at him, and the ref teched him up, and I believe he ended up throwing him out of the game. So, and at that point, Rasheed Wallace, he was still a elite level player, a very good player. So for the ref to throw him out of the game for saying nothing or doing nothing, just basically like, I don't like the call you just made, and the ref get all discombobulated and want to throw him out of the game because the ref is in his feelings or whatever, that was a bad time. But saying all that to say, when things like that happen, the NBA they have no argument that some of the games are favored and things can be fixed. They don't put themselves in a good light when stuff like that happens. And it seems every year stuff like that happens. You already know players going to get calls. It started with Jordan. Then it transitioned to Iverson. But the flip side, they didn't like Iverson. I remember that famous game where all of a sudden Iverson gets called for palming the ball. He's been palming the ball since he came in the league. Now all of a sudden it was an issue. And they have these rules that all of a sudden they want to enforce. Very similar to the NFL with the tuck rule game with the Patriots and what they did to the Raiders that year. They talked about the tuck rule. I'd never heard of the tuck rule until that moment, as well as a whole bunch of other people that had never heard of the tuck rule, but you heard about it that day in that game, because for most people, the powers that be wanted the Patriots to win the Super Bowl. Take that for what it's worth. But in basketball, every year you have issues with these refs and how they are calling the game, how it looks and how the optics of it. You guys hear me say this word all the time, the optics. It's all about the optics. It's all about how it is perceived. The NBA really doesn't do itself any favors because they go through this every year. Now, some of it is just fandom and people getting pissed off because their team didn't win or their favorite player fouled out or whatever the situation is. But there are enough situations where you kind of give it the arched eyebrow, like you don't make that call. You don't make that call at that particular time. Or you've been letting it go this whole game. Now you want to call it? If you're going to be bad or good, just be consistent. If you call it ticky-tack fouls, call ticky-tack fouls the whole game. If you letting them play and be rough and get physical, let them get rough and be physical the whole game. But every year they have these issues. And now when you've got the NBA, one of the stories on ESPN is the NBA looked at the foul on Jimmy Butler and how the time came down, and they don't have a problem with it. Okay, the problem is you got to put out a report that you don't have a problem with it. The fact that it has to be investigated and looked further, and again, it gives you people the opportunity to raise that arched eyebrow, and it's like, something don't smell right. So I'm going to go back and look at the game again. You don't want your product in this situation. But year after year after year, the same things happen. And there's always, it's not even a minority voice. It's a big enough commotion where every year people are talking about what are they going to do to extend the series, because when they extend the series, obviously there's more ad revenue, game sevens, everything that comes with that. Game sevens are much more compelling. Now we had a game seven. The Heat were up 3-0. now they're 3-3 and we go into a pivotal game 7 to go to the finals, yeah, I'm going to watch the game. So I understand it. But at the end of the day, that's still cheating. If you got calls that are being made or you're calling them differently now than you were before, that ain't right. And these pro leagues are always going to have an issue with that. It's in every sport. It's in baseball, football, basketball. With the amount of fouls and flopping and trash talking and everything that goes on in the NBA now, the last thing you want to worry about is if they are reffing the games fairly, especially now that we are in the playoffs. The last thing the NBA wants is for fans to be looking at the final product and it's like, I don't like the way things are going down. And you got to remember, now that we have social media, they can get away with that stuff back in the day, back in the golden era of the NBA. Social media didn't exist. So if you get mad at a call, you were just mad at the call and you moved on to the next night. Now you get people videotaping clips, showing receipts. So you get real-time analysis of mistakes. So you can't just pass it off anymore. It took so long for even the NBA to get review on the court reviews, and they still get the stuff wrong sometimes. And that's the stuff that's frustrating as a fan watching, because it is only going to make you doubt what you see even more. We'll see what happens with the Heat and the Celtics. I want to see the Heat win. I would love to see Jimmy Butler get a ring. We'll see what's going to happen. It'll be very interesting to see how this game is played and the tone of it and what they let him get away with, because now everybody's watching. Everybody's watching. And I've seen a lot of posts, and this is before I even saw the report on ESPN, basically taking clips of the game and they're breaking it down and they're showing the time and they're asking the questions. You know, Jimmy Butler, it happened at 3 seconds. Now there's only 2.1, and then they put it back to 3 seconds. And what it comes down to is, because they took the time back to 3 seconds, that 0.05 seconds was just enough time for the Celtics to get that tip in. It's a game of seconds, and every second counts. We'll see how it is. There'll probably be more talk about it. The fact that the NBA had to come out and say, we investigated it and we don't see anything wrong with it. The fact that you even have to say that is kind of condemned. What are you going to do? It is what it is. If you like my content, please subscribe, hit that notification button, and we're going to keep it moving. So I will see you guys on the next play.